What's good, fight fans? Your Majesty speaking. So, Tank Davis's Coach Calvin Ford, does an interview with FightHub TV, and it was a very interesting video, a very telling video. The more and more Coach Calvin speaks, the more and more skeptical I get about this Tank versus Jake fight. Um, and if I'm not mistaken, it seems like this video that they did may have taken place before the second press conference. So after the first one, before Coach Calvin actually got up and started to ask about the gloves. And I say that because he asked about the gloves in this interview. Really wouldn't make sense for him to ask that question twice. But if you haven't checked it out, I believe you should check it out. It's a very interesting video. And Coach Calvin is, you could tell he a real dude. So he gonna give up information that I don't even think he realized he giving up. So one of the things he pretty much stated was that the gloves is of concern to him. The fact that they both have to wear these 12-ounce gloves, um, they are of concern to Coach Calvin. He is rallying or lobbying for Tank to be able to wear 8-ounce gloves and Jake to be able to wear the 10-ounce gloves. In this interview, it's confusing because he said that he brought it up to Jake's handlers, and Jake handlers was pretty much saying, nah, 12-ounce gloves is an exhibition, da, 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 da. But when they had that second press conference, it was stated that Tank side is the one who asked for the 12-ounce gloves. So the more and more I hear, the more and more I feel like Coach Calvin is on the outs. He really doesn't know what's going on within the details of the fight. The fight. He said that Tank was giving up a lot, and every time that Jake and them come to the table, it's something different. So if initially it was the gloves changed, and then the weight was supposed to be at 190 pounds, and then that changed to 195. And so it's weird to me that most people say that Tank is the face of the sport, and that Tank is the A side and Tank is the guy that sells the tickets. But it's kind of mind-boggling to me that he has no say in this fight. It doesn't make sense to me that a guy that is supposed to be the guy that's selling the tickets, or the guy that is the face of the sport, has no say. That would be equivalent to Canelo. I'm pretty sure if Canelo and Jake, that fight was supposed to happen before Canelo left him hanging and went and took the Crawford fight. I'm pretty sure if Jake and Canelo was in negotiations, Canelo would have a lot of say in things that it seems like Tank has no say in. So that makes me question Tank's star power or his pull in the sport of boxing when it comes to a guy like Jake. And the reason why it stands out to me is because in one of those interviews, Tank said something to Jay Leon Love, like, you went from a boxer to a YouTuber. But in reality, Tank is showing in this fight that this YouTuber is pretty much his daddy too, because he gotta, he don't have none of his demands can be met. He wanted to fight at 190. No. Supposedly he wanted smaller gloves. No. I'm having a hard time believe that it wasn't from Tank's side that asked for the smaller gloves, because when Jake brought that up, Tank said nothing. He had nothing to say. He sat there as if, like, Coach Kyle, don't even worry about it, because I'm really the one that threw the glove thing out here, because da 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 da. Which also leads me to my next point. It appears that Tank Davis may not have been taking this fight as serious as he probably should. And I say that because in this Fight Hub interview, Coach Calvin said that, this is something that we pretty much need to put work in for. This is a fight that we need to actually really train for, because if you think and this is a quote, if you think that you gonna get your shit off on Jake and he ain't gonna try to hit your ass back, or he ain't gonna try to knock you, knock your little ass out, then you pretty much sadly mistaken, because Jake ain't trying to get embarrassed. And you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a lot of people can say, oh, you fighting a real fighter, but you also still fighting a person that's 60 pounds smaller than you. So Jake ain't trying to get embarrassed. And so I hope the last thing Tank is doing is thinking this is a vacation fight where he getting off from fighting Lamont Roach and fighting Shakur Stevenson to take on a fight against Jake Paul as if it's some type of vacation or something. Because if you think Jake Paul is not trying to go in there and knock you the fuck out, I hope you change your mindset or your thought or your frame of mind, because Jake is looking for a viral moment. And if that viral moment can come against somebody like Gervonta Tank Davis, Jake don't give a fuck what it looked like to the public. His goal is to go viral. He don't care if somebody's going to say, oh, Tank was only 140 pounds. Tank was only 135 pounds. Tank was only 5'5". You know how I know that? Because he didn't give a fuck when nobody said Mike Tyson was 60. He didn't give a shit when nobody said, when people were saying that Anderson Silva was old. He didn't give a shit about none of this stuff that people were saying. He only cares about going viral and making money. So I would hope that for the sake of boxing, Tank really takes this fight serious and goes in there and at least not get hit. If you can't stop him, that's cool, but at least show your defensive abilities. Hit Jake when you least expecting it. Stay on your toes. I can't say wrap him up, because I don't think that size is gonna play a different. It's gonna play a factor in this fight. It's gonna be a difference. So I hope Tank is really taking this fight serious, and then it's not just a vacation for him. Which brings me to this next point: Lamont Roach. Coach Calvin Ford in the same interview said that Lamont Roach is a nobody, and he should take the fame that he got from his draw with Tank and run off into the sunset and use it to become a star like Rolly did, like Pitbull did. Nobody knew who those guys were. And while all of that stuff that Coach Calvin is saying is true, there's also another side to that. And the other side to that is, cool, you knocked Rolly out. Rolly did get fame from that fight, but you knocked Rolly out. There was no reason for you to go back and rematch Rolly. The Pitbull Cruz fight, people said it was close. I thought Tank won with one hand in that fight. I didn't think the fight was as close as people made it seem. I also did not think that Pitbull won the fight like a lot of people said. And so you didn't want to fight Pitbull Cruz again? Cool. The difference with this fight is y'all got a draw. And not only did y'all get a draw, but there was so much controversy in that fight with you taking that knee and the ref not doing his job, on top of the fact that the fight was super close. To me, that is different from Tank and Rolly and Tank and Pitbull. And I get what Coach Calvin is saying, but I can't agree to what he is saying. I can't side with him when it comes to the Lamont Roach part of it, because like I said, Lamont Roach actually got a draw. It wasn't he lost and people thought it was close, so Tank should have gave him a rematch. It was an actual draw. Tank is now 31 and 0 with one draw. So that's where the difference is when it comes to Lamont Roach. Do I understand him moving and taking the fight for the money? Absolutely. Do I agree with it? No, because I'm a boxing fan and I want to see the best fighters fight the best fighters. Coach Calvin said nobody wanted to see Tank versus Lamont Roach in the beginning. Now everybody clamoring for Tank versus Lamont Roach. I absolutely agree. But that's what happens when you cherry pick. And I'm not saying that Lamont Roach ain't good, because I know Lamont Roach is good. I'm from the city. But when I say cherry pick, it not all the time means that the fighter is not good. It means that how a particular fighter or how the audience perceives that fighter is why it can be considered a cherry pick. For the same reason that I feel like Terrence Crawford cherry picked Canelo. The same reason why I feel like Canelo fought Dimitri Bivol. I feel like those were cherry picked fights. And I say that not in a bad way, but in a way where I thought Tank picked Lamont Roach, not because Lamont Roach wasn't good, but because he felt like this is a fight that I can take. He's a good fighter. I know he a good fighter. It don't matter what the public think. And in reality, it does matter what the public think, because the public are the people, is the people that are paying for these pay-per-views that you were initially asking people to pay for, and buying these tickets to these arenas and these fights that you were asking people to, spend their money on. So I think the people are the most important when it comes to, especially when you are a pay-per-view fighter. You want people to spend their money on pay-per-view. So Tank should have had at least had the common courtesy to think about the fans. But besides that, I'm going back to Lamont Roach. He was a cherry pick for Tank because I think Tank thought he could fight Lamont Roach and have an easy night. He sparred him a million times. He probably felt like this is a fight that I can go into. It'll probably be a little tough, but I should be able to get out of here, unscathed and with a victory. And for that reason, I believe it was a cherry pick. But once again, one of my famous sayings is, you can't rob the bank and then tell the judge how much time to give you. You can't cherry pick Lamont Roach, and then when things don't play out in your favor, you have all these excuses of why you shouldn't fight him again or why you shouldn't rematch him. I don't think that's cool. And like I said, I want to root for Tank. I like Tank as a fighter. I just can't go against my morals and act like because Tank is from this area or because I like Tank that what he doing is right. I'm never going to do that. You can be my favorite fighter. I'm never going to be the fighter that or the person that justifies something somebody is doing because I like them as a fighter. That ain't going to be me. And the last thing that I wanted to touch on is that Coach Calvin says that Tank is bored with boxing. And my thing is, if that's the case, this isn't a sport that you play. This isn't a sport that you stick around when you no longer have the love for it, because this is a sport where you can actually get hurt. And my advice to Tank would be, if you no longer love the sport, and if the sport is no longer if there is no passion for the sport anymore, I think that it would be best for Tank to just retire and leave the sport of boxing with his faculties. If spending time with your family is the most important thing at this point in your life, then I for sure think that is what you should do. And I say that because we've seen so many people stay around too long and then end up paralyzed, or God forbid a fighter passes away, or whatever the case may be. This isn't basketball, it ain't baseball, it ain't soccer. This is a sport where you can lose your life. And so, to tie back to that first point with them coming into this fight thinking that Jake is playing, I hope that is not the case, because Jake being almost 200 pounds can truly hurt you. Please do not go into this fight thinking that Jake is just some new guy or some guy off the street that's big. Jake has been training for a substantial amount of time, and he is not your average person, on average big dude on the street. Please take this fight serious, man. And with that said, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do so. Comment, engage with me. I'm one of those people who is going to engage back. I'm going to comment back as much as I can. I love to actually talk boxing with people, not just get on here and do interviews, but actually talk boxing with people. If you have not followed me on my social medias. It's in front of you. And until next time.